So here's how it works. You were source energy before you came into this body. Now, you don't remember that. Some of you speculated, and some of you sense it, and some of you have enough resonance within you to know it. But for the most part, humans don't have any real connection with who you were before you came forth into this physical body. And we're not really big proponents of that anyway, because before you came into this physical body, you were source energy. But even though you are now in this physical body, that part of you still exists. So present tense, it's not something that was. I was non-physical consciousness before I became present physical person in this physical body. The correct way of understanding it is I am non-physical energy while at the same time I am in this physical body. And if you can accept those two vibrational perspectives or beingness or vantage points, then and only then will you understand what your emotions are telling you. Because your emotions in every moment are the blend, sometimes better, sometimes not so good, the allowing of the blending or the resisting of the blending of who you really are. And the more you're allowing it, the friskier you feel, the more exhilarated you feel, the more passion and clarity and stamina, the more vivid life is, the more love and joy and appreciation you're feeling. But the more you pinch that off, which is what resistance is, which is what thinking thoughts that are counter to who you really are and what you really are knows, when you think those resistant thoughts, then the emotion that you feel is the pinching off, letting you know that you're not fully flowing in the way you intended to. Negative emotion that feels like fear or anger or resentment or disappointment or any of those negative emotions. So the better you feel, the less you are resisting who you are. Now, a more positive way of saying that is, the better you feel, the more you are allowing the wholeness of who you are. But the reason that we want to say to you in a way that you can really hear it, the better you feel, the less you are resisting who you really are, is because it's just that resisting thing that you've got going on that is keeping you from who you are and what you're wanting. Because while you are here in this physical body and you are exploring the variety that surrounds you, you are launching these rockets of becoming, and you are, the larger part of you, far and away the larger part of you, is becoming, from our point of view, present tense, has become, is already what you are asking for. So while you're in this body launching these rockets, the larger part of you becomes it, but you sometimes, in fact, quite frequently, don't let yourself flow in the direction of what you've actually become. And that is what negative emotion is. That's why negative emotion exists. Life caused you to become more, and you're not going. Not right now. Because you're still beating the drum of why you ask for it. I really, really need it, and it's wrong that I don't have it, and those other ones over there have got it, and I don't think it's fair, and when am I going to get my share, and I really want it now. And so, as you are observing life, there are plenty of things that are happening today in your life that are not exactly as you want them to be. But if you could understand that in all of that living of life, you've been asking for improvement, even if you are only a one-celled organism, you've been asking for improvement. You're far more than that. You're genius, leading-edge creators. As you are asking for more, that asking has already actualized vibrationally. And if it had not, then negative emotion would not be possible. In other words, if you had not expanded beyond what you are allowing, you would never feel negative emotion. Or if you have expanded and you are allowing the expansion, you will feel positive emotion. But if you've expanded and you're not allowing the expansion, then you feel negative emotion. So, a lot of times the negative emotion you feel feels like it's someone else's doing. They're doing that to me. Esther made a reservation at one of the places that they like to park their bus in the Boston vicinity, makes them months in advance and specifically requests specific places to be because they have a really big bus. It's long and it's tall and it wants 50 amps. They tried it once on 30 amps and it freaked out. In the night, all of the breakers went boom, 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 boom. They thought they were being assaulted by machine gun fire. And then 14 things never worked again. And while they have all been repaired, now they are back in the same place. And the woman says, "We only have a 30 amp site for you." And Esther said, "I want to hurt you. Well, it's a knee-jerk reaction. When someone hurts you, don't you want to hurt them back? And doesn't it feel like it's somebody else's fault? And Esther said, seriously, I would have never, ever, ever agreed to that, because we've had experiences in this park with 30 amps. And the woman said, well, we record every phone call. And Esther said, that's good for me, because I know that I requested with great specifics a 50 amp side. And so they dug up the recording. It was really interesting because in 14 different ways, Esther specifically acknowledged how important it was that they have 50 amps. But in one small, unheard by Esther sentence, the woman had said, sometimes we cannot guarantee, because someone may get there before you do and take the power from your pole. Only she didn't say it in that much specifics. She just said, well, I've got you on a 50 amp side. And when Esther listened back to it, she could see how the woman was confirming her rightness with the same recording that Esther was confirming her rightness. How can we both know that we're right? Now, what we're getting at is, so something that should not have happened, happened. Or should it have not happened? Or should it have happened? In other words, as Esther listened back to the recording, she realized how many times she mentioned how important 50 amps were, from her place of clearly knowing that she didn't want 30 amps. In other words, it's tricky, isn't it? In other words, the way it turned out and what Esther now knows about law of attraction, which she's been arguing with all day, but she knows that she is not the one exception in all of the universe, although she thinks that if anyone should be, it should be her. But Esther acknowledged, because of the way it turned out, because the way things manifest, that's your proof, isn't it? The way things manifest is your proof of what's going on in your vibration. Oh, that's painful to hear. What's happening is proof? What's happening is an indication of my vibration? Abraham, give me a break. Didn't you hear the recording? We said we heard the universal recording. We heard the same recording that Law of Attraction heard. We heard your concern about a 30 amp site, which was far, far, far more vivid than your appreciation of a 50 amp site. Your concern about what you did not want was far more active in your vibration than your vibration of what you do want. Well, that right there explains to all of you the reason that it's nobody else's fault, anything that happens to you. And while we acknowledge it sure feels better to blame somebody else than it does to accept your own stupidity, well, we got just a little carried away there, than it does to accept your own guilt, in every case, whatever is coming to you is a vibrational indicator of what you've got going on vibrationally. And so if we were standing in your physical shoes and something happened in our experience and we did not like it, we would bring ourselves into an awareness of what we prefer, and we would practice the preference so often and so vividly that there could never again be confusion on the part of the universal manager who arranges all campsites for all campers. Talk about a really effective concierge in the sky. There is never, ever an injustice that is done, ever, 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 ever. But there are plenty of times that you get something different than what you want. But when you get something different from what you want, it's not because an injustice has occurred, it's because you've got a different dominant vibration than your own desire. Don't you love knowing that? Not so much. So what it means is, it's important for you to relax in whatever's happening and accept, that's the most important thing, accept that whatever's happening, whatever it is, whatever is manifesting is an indication of what? An indication of your vibrational balance, an indication of your vibrational balance, an indication of your vibrational balance. So not only do you have the benefit of emotions that let you know how you're doing pre-manifestationally, but you have stuff showing up that is your indicator of your vibrational mix post-manifestationally. So Esther's first knee-jerk response was, that's just fine. This campground has been a pain in the, for the entire 7, 8, 9 years we've been coming here. They never promised to give me what I want. And we say, you really don't want to need promises and confirmations from other humans, especially those who have a lot of other campers to please. You really don't want to depend on someone else's promise for the way your life turns out. You want to depend upon your vibration over which you have complete control. So we'll be talking today about anything that you want to talk about. We're eager to talk about whatever it is. But we want to give you fair warning that we have complete awareness of what you have already amassed over here in your, what we are calling vibrational reality. What we are calling this vortex of creation, where all things that match your desire have been assembled. All cooperative components have been assembled. The question is, are you a cooperative component? And if you're worried about something, if you're frustrated about something, as Esther thinks back, the few times that her mind moved in the direction of where they were parking the bus, she has to acknowledge that she thought about it from the I know what I don't want standpoint no more than she did I know what I do want. They're also under an acorn tree, more machine gun fire. And so when they go to move the bus, it's necessary that they find a ladder taller than any one you've ever seen, to climb up on top of the bus to sweep off the extended rooms because they can't bring them in when there are nuts on the top of the bus. So as Esther is hearing the nuts falling, she is remembering how much she didn't like hearing them falling last time. And she is remembering how specific she was about not wanting to be under the falling nut tree again. And she is remembering that she had the experience, didn't like most of it, got in the bus and drove away, and never thought about it again until she returned. In other words, no effort whatsoever about cleaning up vibration. Just living it, complaining about it, not liking it, feeling the injustice of it, threatening to cut the tree down herself. It's a really big tree. And then driving away, not returning to that thought vibration, but leaving it right where it was, waiting for her. So the people who are establishing the new assignment are inspired by the power of her vibration to put her right there on that spot where she belongs. There's no injustice ever, is there? So, the fair warning that we are giving you is that in all that you are living, you've launched these rockets of desire and you've put them into your vortex of creation. And they are being tended by the larger part of you. They stand as present tense. And this is the thing that we really want you to hear. What you have launched forward, when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want, even though you're speaking of what you don't want, the equal and opposite desire goes forward. And the source within you rides that rocket of desire and holds that spot. That's what the evolution of all species is about. That's why life gets better and better and better for all beings, for all consciousness at all times. And so, as we are visiting with you, even though you may have something going on, and clearly you do, there are all kinds of vivid things that are happening in your experience, and much of them you like, and much of them you don't want. In other words, Jerry and Esther have a magnificent life. As we tell this story, there are glitches in their vibration, and there are glitches in your vibration. And that's really what we want to talk about. We want to talk about how to work the glitches out of your vibration, how to bring yourself consciously into alignment with what you really want and who you really are. Because there is the way you gain control of your experience. You have to give up your effort at controlling the uncontrollable. Jerry and Esther have befriended so many people at that campground, thinking that they would have an inside scoop on how the campsites were assigned. And it never works out because no one can buck their current. In other words, you cannot receive from anyone, even very well-meaning people, something that defies the vibration that you got going on. You got one choice and one choice only, and that is to line up with what you want by giving more attention to it than the opposite. So, what do you want to talk about? It is our promise that we will do our best to stand inside your vortex and call you this way. And if you are too far from the vortex, you won't hear us, we'll just annoy you. So we won't call you forward at all. If you're too far from the vortex, it will be annoying for you and annoying for everyone who's listening in.